Hello everyone, this is Ron from High Tech Legion. You've seen me previously review the MSI MPOWER MAX Z87 mainboard, and I was thoroughly impressed with it. The fact that it was a good performer and a good overclocker, and it had a balanced set of features. And I was glad to hear that that actually was not their high-end mainboard. They actually have something that is higher than that, and this is the MSI XPOWER mainboard you see here. Now obviously you've seen the previous XPOWER, that was the Big Bang X79, which had that sort of that Gatling gun heatsink and that magazine style sap bridge, which to be honest looks a lot tacky. But thankfully now MSI has moved away from those from that look, trying to attract those kind of users who would think that's a good idea. But now they've adapted the Lightning series, the color theme, the distinct yellow and the black color scheme. It goes very well. It's also unique compared to other mainboards, so it definitely stands out. But how well does this mainboard stand out? Well, if the Z87 MPOWER MAX was any indication, then this motherboard should also perform very well. Well, we won't know unless we dig in, so I'm just gonna go ahead and open up this box and see what we can find inside. The XPOWER packaging is similar to the MPOWER. It has the same black and white color scheme. Instead of the X, of course, you have instead of the M, you have the X, and also a preview of the board there. That's not the exciting part. The exciting part is inside. So let's just start opening that. Now I thought at first that the packaging was a little too big until I actually opened it and saw that it is actually quite compact. And the board itself is quite big. That's why it is that way. Here's the separate compartment with accessories and a separate compartment for the board itself. See there? Just remove the covering. Very cool looking. Now let me just put that aside. Back here, and let's take a look at the accessory pack first. Comes inside each package, so it up sideways so from the camera. See a bonus here already. You get an MSI gaming mouse pad. It's from Steel Series. I'm surprised it didn't have the yellow color scheme as the gaming motherboard color scheme there. And of course, essentials, you have SATA cables. You have 6 SATA cables. You have that panda color scheme going. Each of them are angled on one end and straight on the other. They're all latching. And also SLI cables. Do I know there's SLI? Well, it's marked SLI. And crossfire is typically wider. And then they don't really provide crossfire cables on motherboards. So you have 2 shorter ones and 1 long one if you want to bridge the first and the 5th slot, and then 2 so you can run quad SLI connected like so. And what else do we have here? We have this one, also found on the other MSI mainboards. This was a really cool eSATA and a powered eSATA output. See there, bracket with the connectors provided, all of them, and including a latching eSATA cable. And you have the antennas. Now, what are these for? These are for the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi module. Let me just find that. All I can find here is the installation guide and the screw used for it. And now, I don't know why they keep on putting it here on. I know that it's supposed to be in an anti-static bag, but like the MPOWER, it's not taped on the other end, so it can actually get loose and just move around inside. So they could put it in here and then put it inside here, so it's kind of doesn't get damaged on transport. But as you can see, here's the module. I'll show it how to install this later onto the board itself. Obviously, this is where those connectors go for the antennas. And let me just put back the anti-static packaging here and put it aside. you have also the MPOWER connectors. These are quite useful for the front panel connectors, so you don't have to take out your glasses or use a microscope just to plug in these front panel connectors. Also has an installation guide in there. Also, this little thing is for the multimeter reading, the voltage readout points. It's sort of an extender attachment. Just attach those into those headers. I'll show that later once you do the overview, and then attach your multimeter on the other end to get a clear reading. You have the I/O shield, pretty much essential as well whenever you're installing it onto a case. You have another bracket here, this time for USB 3.0, and a 19-pin connector on the other end. And still not over. It's a premium board, so it's going to have a lot of stuff on it. You have an installation guide. It's a fold-out installation guide. I'm not even going to fold it out. There's more interesting manuals in here. You have a pair of DVD discs, including the drivers and utilities for LAN, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and overclocking with drivers and utilities. There should be a, I think there is a an auto installation part in here where you just click auto install all and it will automatically install all the necessary software without having to install each piece by piece. And here is another MSI gaming series device here. This time it is a badge instead of a mouse pad, so that's 2 gaming series bonuses for you. And also the software and application user's guide, slightly thinner. It's actually all English. It's not multilingual. Just to verify again. Yep, it is all English. And I'm not sure if it's localized depending on where you would buy your board. You have the XPOWER Z87 all English manual. Obviously, it's quite comprehensive. And it should outline everything. And speaking of outline, you have this fold out. Nope, it looks like a promotional guide slash poster on this side, but on the other side, it is actually a very, very useful layout. I love seeing these on motherboards because you can just easily sort of get an overview of it. I'm surprised they don't put these in the back of the boxes so people can kind of get a good overview of what they can get whenever they buy the package. And it's pretty much it. Shows you where each connector goes to. And let's put that aside. You have 2 last things here. You have this, I forgot what they call these, door knocker thingies. Obviously it goes to the doorknob, but unlike some of those, it actually has something funny in there. Like buying LN2 is quite appropriate. I have had ones from Busy Breaking World Records. It's actually quite clever. I have had like too many of those from other mini boards, and to be honest, they were quite corny. So it's good that MSI, this one actually is something I would use. Although I'm not exactly an overclocker, so that will be a lie if I put that on. And also you have the certificate of quality and stability because it has the military class components in there. It shows you which of the actual military tests it withstood. I don't know, back is empty. Just in here in front, you have the low pressure test, high temperature test, low temperature test, temperature shock, humidity, vibration test, shock test, and all that for each of these components. So just I guess this makes it official that it is indeed military class certified, not just a marketing gimmick. It is actually certified by some lab, by Integrated Service Technology Lab. And pretty much it. Just check if there's anything else underneath this compartment hidden. Maybe Anne Frank is hiding there. Okay, maybe not. Well, anyway, let me put aside all of these, and actually, you know what? Let me install my CPU into the motherboard, test it out first, and then get back to you, and just give you a walkthrough of the layout. And again, I'll tell you what I thought of the motherboard. Alright, so here we have the Z87 XPOWER completely out of packaging. And first thing you notice is that it is slightly bigger than a standard ATX mainboard, and of course it is slightly longer, as a standard ATX form factor will just end right here where this mounting hole is. Well, this one is slightly taller, and it is also slightly wider, so you probably need a full tower case for this one. And the actual dimensions are it's 34.5 centimeters by 26.4 centimeters. Again, it is technically an XL-ATX form factor, but not all XL-ATX form factors abide by that exact same size rule. But again, it is longer and it is thicker than a standard ATX form factor by about 1 inch, and it is taller by about 2 inches. So you have to account for that whenever you want to buy the XPOWER and fit it inside your case. Let's go over the features here. Of course, this is going to be numerous since it is a premium. Motherboard is also quite heavy. You can hear it there already. And you have, of course, 2 power connectors there. You only need to use one for if you're not going to extreme overclock, but for additional power, you can plug in a secondary power there. And right underneath these gigantic heat sinks are, of course, the VRM area. You have 32 phases. There's actually 16 phases only right on top, but right underneath, right on the opposite side there, you have 16 more of, I believe they use the IR3550. So there you go, power stage. And also you can see the what MSI calls the military class 4 components. You have the just show you that so you can see this is pretty much the same components they used for the MPOWER MAX. You have high-end components there, surface mount capacitors, dart caps they call it, and solid core inductors, which can, of course, since the IR3550s can handle up to 60 amps, so these are of course designed to match that, and of course to handle a lot more voltage and provide stability when you're overclocking. Of course, a lot more people will not really need that when they're just desktop overclocking, but for extreme overclockers, that will definitely come in handy. In fact, the heatsink here is not really designed for airflow. You can see the super pipe there that MSI has implemented, but it is mostly designed for extreme overclockers. And just move it here, show you the DIMM slots. You have 4 DIMM slots supporting up to 3000 megahertz. I don't have any modules that can reach that high yet, so I will probably update this review, or you will see in my future review whenever I get when I do get a 3000 megahertz memory kit, and I will test it out on this mainboard or the MPOWER MAX and see how well it performs. But for now, obviously, has you can see the DIMM slots there. They're not color coded, but when you want to install it first, of course, pretty much standard to install in the 2nd and the 4th DIMM slot when you're running dual channel. And you have here as well, right beside that are the overclocking tools. Now for the beginners, you have the OC Genie. You can just press that, and there's also a gear switch for it right on the side. The gear switch, just 2 options, 4.0 gigahertz and 4.2 gigahertz. And obviously you won't need the rest if you're a beginner. You can just press that and it automatically does it for you. It's quite instant actually, but it takes 2 seconds at most. And if you don't need that, you're obviously an extreme overclocker, then you can use these buttons for sure. And you'll also have the voltage readout points you can attach your multimeter to, including a ground point there, and just further read points right underneath the CPU area. And as for the buttons here, you have these 2 plus and minus buttons here on the bottom side. These are actually the bus clock adjustments, and there's also a bus clock step adjustment right here that allows you to adjust it in increments of 1 or increments of 0.01. So actually it's 0.1, I think, and it allows you to do that directly on board when you are fully booted. And you have also the ratio adjustments here in a plus and minus sign, and also you have a reset and power button, which comes in handy without attaching it inside the case. You can just run it on a test bench and just use the reset and the power button that way. Also, this icon right here is actually for the discharge. And what the discharge does is something equivalent to removing the battery, physically removing the battery, but this one is a lot more convenient. Of course, it requires a lot less effort on part of the user. No waiting times, no fidgeting, no counting down, and no installing it and testing out whether it works. It just works when you press it. Of course, you have to have the system shut down in order to do that. It won't work when your system is running, and it's quite dangerous. So most likely MSI disabled that anyway. And also, I overlooked it, but you have your CPU fan in there and your CPU fan in here. So that's two CPU fan connectors that are 4-pin PWM. Also, there's an LED here on the top heatsink. See that glow, and you can just disable that by removing that plug right there. Like any main board, the XPOWER Z87 from MSI, powered by a 24-pin ATX power connector right in the middle. But it has a unique dual BIOS backup option. You can toggle between the first one and the second one by using this switch right here. Right underneath this heatsink is a Z87 chipset from Intel, which powers both these USB 3.0 ports that are on board. One is angled and one is a straight up USB 3.0 19-pin connector. Now, why is this one angled? Just like the SATA ports right here, because the PCIe expansion slots are directly in line with it. So if you install a graphics card there, it will be obscured unless you angle them. So there you can still plug in stuff right onto the side. Now, also from the Z87 chipset are 6 native SATA 6 ports, and it says here that the SATA port 5 will be disabled when you install an mSATA device here onto this mSATA location. And you have 2 additional SATA ports here, which are also SATA 6, and these are actually as media 1061 chips. You can see them right beside that. So 2 separate as media 1061 chips powering a pair of SATA 6 ports right at the bottom. The MSI Z87 XPOWER is unique in that it can support up to 4-way of 8X, 8X, 8X SLI or Crossfire X mode. That is actual 4 physical video cards instead of a pair of dual GPU video cards, unlike other main boards. Now that is made possible by the PLX chip right underneath here in the Northbridge area. What people used to call Northbridge. Obviously there's no more Intel Northbridge chipset, but right underneath that is a PLX PEX8747 chipset that can distribute 8X, 8X, 8X here on the first, the third, the fifth, and the last lane. And also, if you want to run triple SLI, you can run 8X, 8X, 16X. And if you want to run dual SLI in 16X, 16X, you can install in the first one and the fifth one. Now, what is this second slot? What is that used for? You say, well, that is the one that is wired directly to the Haswell processor, provided full 16-lane access, PCIe 3.0 from the CPU. Now, what is the difference between that one and the topmost slot here? Won't they run both 16X? Yes, they will. But the top one here and the fifth one, although if you install a card on each of those, or well, just install a card on either one of those, and even the second one here, they will all run at 16X, but the difference is the second one does not have the latency due to the fact that it does not pass through the PLX chip here. But obviously you need a very powerful video card in order to actually see that. In fact, you'll see on my benchmarks that the benchmark results between when I had a GTX 760 here and a GTX 760 here, the results were indiscernible from each other. You will need a much more powerful video card and to kind of choke it out and to actually see the difference in the latency. You won't see it in real world performance. And obviously, again, there's an optional power there provided if you do require it for hardcore overclocking, and also for those who are running a lot of will actually use all 4 cards in there. We'll install 4 cards right underneath that, and obviously you will have problems with obscuring the features here at the bottom, including the ports and also even the ceasefire button here at the bottom. Now, this ceasefire is useful for disabling the 4 PCIe X16 slots that are used here from the PLX chip, and you can just flip it down to disable them. For example, you don't want to break your water loop. You have a card here on the 3rd slot or in the 4th slot. the fourth slot, you're trying to troubleshoot which one is not working correctly, then you just simply slide down that toggle off, which one, and then try to boot and see and detect which one is not working in the loop before you break the loop and then sort of try it out one by one. That's just one of the ways to do it, and also it's quite useful for overclocking. And also you have the pair of PCIe X1 slots. They're tucked in between here, in the fourth and the sixth slot area. At the bottom you also have two USB 2.0 ports. The red one is for supercharging, which is quite useful for your tablets and your other high drain devices. You have also a 2-port debug LED. You have your front panel connectors. Since it is MSI, they have a unique two separate systems for the front panel connectors. So 2 separate M connectors. But even if you don't use the M connectors, which are convenient installation headers, you can just read the pin out here printed on the board itself, so you can plug in the proper front panel connectors for your case. You also have another 4-pin fan header right at the bottom edge here. And this is a unique button for the Go to BIOS button for MSI. Now what that does is when you press this button when you're booted, and then by the next time you restart your computer, you will boot directly into the MSI UEFI. Now that is quite useful because especially when you have an SSD and then you have fast boot, MSI fast boot and Intel fast boot enabled at the same time, you'll probably your system will probably be too fast for you to catch that post screen. It'll be mashing too slow. So this is a convenient way of just pressing that and then immediately booting to the UEFI directly next time. You have also the system fan here, another 4-pin system fan, and the front panel audio connector. Now for the front panel, underneath this boost audio cover here is actually an ALC1150 codec from Realtek. And also if you look closely, they have these op amps here, which also isolated the entire area because of the see the lighting there. You won't see it yet, but when you plug it in, you'll see that this entire area lights up, and that area is actually the LED just highlights it, but it actually means that the entire area is isolated from the rest of the PCB, of course, to minimize electronic interference and of course improve the audio external audio output, and also comes out here at the rear. And speaking of the rear, we have lastly the let me just prop that up so you can see better. You have gold plated connectors here for all the audio, and also you have optical out and HDMI and another HDMI port here and a display port. Now these support of course 4K display, but the good thing about having a pair of HDMI and a DV and a display port here is that it supports triple display directly from the CPU. You also have of course the Qualcomm Killer E2200 NIC right here, gigabit LAN. You can see actually the chip right there, and you also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 USB 3.0 ports. Now the 4 USB 3.0 ports provided by the pair of onboard headers in the middle were from Z87 chipset, but these are from the ASMedia 1074 chip located right behind there. And of course, as we've seen in previous tests, we've seen many motherboards use that before, and the performance is quite good. And also you have a pair of USB 2.0 ports here and a PS2 port, which are actually they're running at 1000 megahertz for gamers. The polling rate is permanently set to 1000 megahertz instead of the typical 125 hertz from a 1000 hertz rather, compared to the typical 125 hertz of the standard USB port. And you also have a CMOS, clear CMOS button right here, which of course lights up. You can see that it looks like something that will light up, but because it definitely does light up. And also, lastly, you have these pins right here. So what are these for? Well, if you remember the accessory pack, saw these MSI Wi-Fi Bluetooth module. Of course, this is where you would plug in the antennas. And but if you're actually very close to the router, if your router, for example, is right beside your desk, you don't need antenna. You can just pop this in. The pin out will be the same, and of course, use this screw provided by provided in accessory pack to secure it completely. Of course, I'm doing this blend right here. There you go. It's as simple as that, and you are pretty much set. And it has Wi-Fi N and Bluetooth 4.0. I believe it's 4.0 capability brought by this module. See there, Wi-Fi BGN. I would have preferred if they had AC module, because that's pretty much the new standard now, and provides a very good transfer rate, much more than the wireless N that we're accustomed to now. Oh, anyway, that is pretty much it for the overview of the MSI XPOWER. All right, there you have it. As you can see, that this actually had my highest overclock yet with any main board, and also it didn't require too much voltage adjustments because of the nature of the 4770Ks and Haswell. The leap between once you hit that overclocking wall, you have to apply a lot more voltage in order to push it further, and unfortunately, no air coolers or even the highest-end self-contained liquid cooling solution will be enough to suppress the heat. I was getting 90 degrees with my Fantex DC14PE once I got 1.35 volts, 1.4 volts, and that was what I required to reach a bootable 4.6, 4.7 gigahertz that was stable. So unfortunately, I did not have a. I have a retail chip. I don't have the engineering samples that other people got. The engineering samples are actually a lot higher overclockers than the retail chips. So what I got is more representative of what most people will get when they buy a 4770K from a retail store. Now, in terms of things I like about this main board, well, there's just too many to list, but I'll start with things I disliked, which is very few. The things I disliked are just minor things. The fact that the ceasefire switch is right at the bottom, and that will be obscured when you put in a fourth card underneath. So it doesn't make sense to put it there because you won't be able to see it when you have a card installed in the air. So I would have preferred if the ceasefire button was right to the side, so you can still access it right near the overclocking tools, so you can access it even when you have a fully configured video card, multi-configuration, multi-GPU setup there. Another thing I disliked, just minor nitpick again, the go-to BIOS, extremely useful. I use it all the time, but it didn't automatically shut down the computer and reset it for you. There was no indicator whether it was triggered or not when you press it until you just reset your systems. I would have liked to see maybe an LED indicator that told the user that it was triggered when you press it. There's plenty of LED indicators in the board itself that lets you know that how it performs. So maybe just a tiny addition to that, maybe in a later revision, that will become useful. And also the placement will be better again at near the overclocking tools. And as for things I liked, plenty of things. Of course, the fact that the memory can overclock to 3000 megahertz, the overclockability 32 phase using IR3550s. 50 ICs, which are these compact MOSFETs, which are they're basically single pack for driver MOSFET. They're not the multiple driver MOSFETs anymore. They're a lot more efficient, can withstand 60 amps, and also the use of the high-end components. You have the same ones they use in the MPOWER MAX, so definitely quite impressive, and the heatsink is very beefy. The implementation of the multi-GPU is also very smart. The fact that there was a dedicated 16X slot that was directly wired to the CPU, and you didn't have to use that one if you want to have a multi-GPU configuration where for four-way SLI, and you just basically bypass that one. That was very smart because a lot of people don't want to kind of muddy the record with the latency. They don't want to risk it, so they want to plug it in directly to the 16X slot from the CPU. And for those who are just gamers, you don't mind the latency. You won't be able to detect it with the current crop of video cards anyway, unless you're an overclocker. So you can run 4-way SLI, 3-way SLI on through the PLX chip. And also USB 3.0 implementation. There's plenty of USB. There's about 10 USB 3.0s plus the onboard ones from the Z87, and also 4 additional SATA 6 ports. Very impressive. And also another thing, just a minor nitpick, I love the fact that there was a Wi-Fi functionality and Bluetooth with wireless display functionality, but I would have preferred if MSI kind of thought a little more ahead and implemented an 802.11 AC network, wireless network functionality instead of 802.11n, which is pretty much on the way out at the moment. It's still the network of choice mostly for home users. Most of them will be running N networks, but AC is definitely the future, and the performance boost between AC and N is quite significant. So that's just another thing I didn't mention earlier that I would have liked to see. It's not necessarily something I dislike, just something I would have preferred, especially for the price point. And speaking of price point, that's another thing. That's pretty much the biggest thing I dislike about the board. I love all the features, but this is pretty much the most expensive Z87 mainboard in the market at $439. The closest competitors are all $409. So $439 is very expensive, but obviously you saw what it can do. You saw what the accessories it comes with. You saw what the features are, and you saw how well it performed and how well it overclocked. So definitely it's still going to get a High-Tech Legion Editor's Choice Award. And as you can see, I'm losing my voice now. I just can't get enough of this board. I'm just gushing about it. But it's, again, slightly larger form factor, so you would need a full tower case to do that. And if you want to read the full review, just click on the link below. You can visit us at hightechlegion.com/Facebook. Hightechlegion.com/forum. Just leave your questions or comments. Visit us at Facebook, facebook.com/HTLReviews. Tweet at us at twitter.com/hightechlegion. And once again, this is Ron signing out. Thanks for watching.